I'm not going to talk about everything I hate about this movie, but I have to tell you, it's a lot. I could go scene by scene, which is partly why I'm doing it in this more react style way. But I have a feeling that this is going to be already too long. So just trust me, if you're like, what about this horrible scene in the middle of things that I'm talking about? I saw it. I didn't care for it. And we're going to move on. I want to talk about the bigger issues and how we could make it better. Welcome to Erratic Sleep Patterns, guys. What is up, party people? It's Amy, and today we're going to be talking about The Crow 2. I'm going to do this one a little bit different. I'm going to do some reaction and discussion while we go through the movie. I had actually started watching this before, and I had a lot of things to say, and I was writing notes feverishly as we were going through, and also I had to take a break halfway through because I was going crazy. So I'm going to rewatch the movie and record while I do it so that I have like things synced up a little bit better. So I just posted a video about The Crow. And this is going to be a lot different than that one. This is going to be more fun. I can't remember the last time I saw The Crow 2. Originally, I thought it would be fun to watch The Crow every Halloween and The Crow 2 every November 1st. The Crow 2 has the Day of the Dead in it, and so I thought, like, this makes perfect sense. So in my head, The Crow on Halloween was a lot more fun than I realized it was when I was really examining it. If you haven't seen the video on The Crow, I don't necessarily recommend it. And if you can't find the video on The Crow, it's probably because it's emotional, and I have a tendency of privating videos that are emotional and honest because they feel uncomfortable for me, because I don't think that I produce them well. But the point is, it turns out I was lying to myself and I didn't know it, which is always a fun thing to find. If you've never had that experience, we all lie to ourselves, and sometimes, I think most times, we don't necessarily know it. So when you're faced with that fact, it's kind of a shock. Like, oh, this was not what I thought it was. So in that, I remembered The Crow 2, City of Angels, to be a better movie than it was, which means I probably haven't really seen it since I was a teenager. Not that I would have thought it was a good movie necessarily as a teenager, because I remember giving it allowances. I knew that it was not as good as The Crow, and that I was only appreciating it as a Crow product, I guess. Even in the opening the cart back video, I acknowledge that most of what I would probably like about it is nostalgic after this unknown amount of time. And again, I don't know when the last time I saw this movie was. I can't remember. I remember the movie not as well as I thought, it turns out, but the nostalgia is worn off. And so I'm finding some interesting things and issues and things that I didn't even really think about when I saw it. I don't watch all movies critically, so I could see me going into The Crow 2 with like super low expectations and not expecting anything. And so it could have been that I liked it because it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But now it's worse than I thought it was. So I'm going to go through it more of a reaction style than I typically do for movie reviews, just because there's so many things I want to pick at, because I'm kind of a jerk, let's be honest. But then I want to talk about what we can do to make it better. And I might go through that as we're going along. The Crow series, so it's based on James O'Barr's work. And I know he did additional comics or graphic novels. I didn't see them though, because I grew up with no money. And so getting any of those, like any graphic novel, anything like that, was actually a luxury for me to have. So I've missed out on a ton of works. And so I don't know what the path for the additional Crow works have been. I'll say they could have had a whole series of Crow movies that could have been very, very good. But just to spoil it, they took the wrong thing from the first Crow into the second Crow. I'm starting from the beginning, but I have seen the first half very recently. I saw it last night.
Because sometimes love is stronger than death.
Okay, so I want to stop for a second already. One of the problems I have with this movie is that it seems that Sarah is a through line like that cat's supposed to be Gabriel. Like, how old is that cat? How old is she? She was like, what, 12 or 13? I guess maybe the cat's like 15. My cat lived to be 18, but it just seems unrealistic that she'd still have the cat. But on top of that, the fact that she is one of the things that continues the story is confusing to me. It would assign her some sort of mystic properties. Are we to believe that it has only ever happened twice, and both times she's been nearby? Do the crows communicate with her? Is this an ongoing thing that, you know, wherever she is, if somebody's brought back, that the crows tell her and then she is the guide instead of the crow, even though the crow is there? Could it only happen when she's like nearby, within like, I don't know, 10 yards, or I mean 10 miles? It just doesn't make any sense. The reason that she got to see Eric in the first movie wasn't because she had any sort of psychic powers. That's not how that worked. His physical body came back. We saw the grave uprooted. The police could see him.
You move, you're dead.
And I say I'm dead. And I move.
All the bad guys could see him, not even just the ones that he was going after. Now, if that had been a different thing where the only people who could see him were the people that he was hunting, which would actually be a pretty cool idea, and then she could see him also, implying that she has some sort of psychic powers, then this would make sense, her having dreams, the connection, that sort of thing. But that's not it. She just happened to be connected to that family. I don't mind the main bad villain.
We all have our pleasures.
He's very, he can be interesting. He's a sadist. He enjoys seeing pain. He speaks in a creepy manner.
I said we all have our pleasures. Mine is the pain of others.
I feel like a lot of these are based on the first movie's villains. In advance, I know that Iggy Pop was originally supposed to be in the first movie. I think he was supposed to be Fun Boy, but he couldn't do it. So maybe that character could be moved into the next one. But I don't know, the Thomas Jane character with the video camera, I don't know if he's just not selling it very well or it's just silly.
I mean, Jesus Christ, Judah.
I don't know, it just makes me laugh. But overall, they're not that interesting of characters. The other thing that's irritating to me is the tendency to continue the same themes from the previous one, right? Like, so the main villain in the first Crow, his sister is some sort of oracle of sorts.
Sister. She's supposed to be a sister.
This guy's got an oracle. There's the same, like, weird thing about eyes in both movies. So in the first movie, there's that scene with the eye.
All the power in the world resides in the eyes.
It's kind of disturbing. And in this one, they're like, oh, you know what's awful is eye stuff. Let's amp it up since it's a sequel.
We didn't have a choice.
That, in my understanding, is not what The Crow is supposed to be about. It's not specifically about eye things. And honestly, the character of the main bad guy could probably even be similar to the first character.
What happened back there with you and your girlfriend? Hell, nothing in this town happens without my say-so.
Pain is my power. Kill them.
But this actor is playing it the way that he's playing
And I must confess, I like what I saw.
it. So maybe it seems like it's different and I don't see it as much. I get it. Bad guys are bad guys. And sometimes they're going to come off similar because they're all being bad and doing bad things. But you can do different things that aren't just holding a video camera to make your character stand out as different from the one before. This is the worst tattoo work I've ever seen. Okay, so I don't know how long they've been dead. In the first Crow, it was a year. And so I would anticipate it was like an anniversary sort of thing. In this case, they're in pretty good shape. I looked it up, which is gonna, like all these things I'm looking up, if anybody that I know dies, I am so screwed, you guys. Seriously, tell the police I'm making these videos. I have found that if the water is below 7 Celsius, which is what, 46 degrees? They can still be intact and recognizable skeletons after 5 years. Okay, and then another source, Science Focus and Scientific American, says that a body floating in less than 70 degrees for about 3 weeks, the tissue turns to a soapy fatty acid known as grave wax and halts bacteria growth. So I guess it would make sense that they're still somewhat intact if they've died recently and it's not warm water. What I'm thinking, and maybe this is awful, but especially for practical effects, for keeping people underwater, it would make more sense for the same year thing to happen. And it's okay for him to be intact because in the first movie, the guy came back intact. So I assume there's some sort of regeneration thing going on. You see the first guy get shot. His body heals, right? So it's not unbelievable. And then the boy could be a skeleton. And I don't know, is that upsetting? I think it's less upsetting to see a tiny skeleton tied to somebody than a little boy. But I don't know, maybe I just have different, I find different things upsetting. Something that still looks like a child is far more upsetting to see deceased than a skeleton to me. But seriously, how long has it been? Has it only been a couple of days? And if so, what is the lore for this, right? Why did the first guy take a year? This guy takes, I'm going to say 2 days, 3 days. If all of the things are intact, right? The girl's there, the upsetting nature of death is there, the loss of a loved one is there. Why are the timelines so different? Did the first time the crow was like, I don't know how to bring this guy back, and it took longer, and then now it's like, I'm assuming it's the same crow, it's the same cat, it's the same girl. And now the crow's like, okay, I figured out a faster process. I've got this. I'm going to bring this guy back. I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Also, if you come back from the dead, Sarah and the crow decide you can come back. I don't know how to say this in a way that's okay for YouTube, but I'm just going to say it. I can't imagine leaving my dead child in the ocean, right? Especially if I came back to life, right? I came back to life and I don't know that I died for some reason, which is another issue that I have, but whatever, it's lower on the scale of everything. So I was drowned to death with my child tied to me. I come back to life an unknown amount of time later. My child is still tied to me, looks to be in the same shape that I am. So why would I just leave him in the water? Why wouldn't I try to pull him up and like do CPR or something? Like even if I knew that I couldn't do anything to bring him back, why wouldn't I still bring him up? If you're that upset, right? You're so upset about the death of your child that you're going to seek revenge. Why do you just leave your child in the water? It doesn't make any sense. He's a physical being. He has physical interactions. Like he has to get himself untied. He doesn't just float out of, the ties or anything. He has to fight to get untied. And he just leaves his kid there. So it doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense either. Is that because of the crow too? I will say there are some cool shots in that, like her walking down the dock like that is actually really cool. Overall, the direction it seems to be pretty good. The cinematography, that kind of thing. I think Tim Pope has done music videos too. What else has Tim Pope done? Okay, so Tim Pope has done a lot of Cure music videos. If you know something about me, I enjoy most of the Cure videos and how ridiculous they are. One of the things about this movie that I won't be showing is there's more nudity in this movie, and I get the idea it's supposed to be like, I guess like how Los Angeles is so depraved and everything like that. It feels more like it's just meant for shock value than anything else, and it doesn't even work. It's just weird. It doesn't shock me. I'm like, oh my god, a nudity. It's just like at best it's distracting.
Come on, man, just tell me what you see.
I remember thinking Iggy Pop was acted much better in this movie than he actually does. Like I remember like thinking like, oh, he did a real good job.
Think about this. Think. Don't you see two demons?
I see a bird.
This tattoo theme for this character is weird to me because this doesn't look like a new tattoo. And granted, the tattoo, it seems like nobody on this movie's ever had a real tattoo. So maybe that's why that looks like it's been there a while. But what is happening? Why is he upset about it looking like a crow already? 2, if it's from his drawings, how is he mad? 3, what's wrong with having a crow? 4, did he get the tattoo after the death? I'll come back to this. I gotta think this one through.
How did I survive?
You didn't.
So this part is another one of those times that feels like it's a copy of the first movie. You gotta have a guy hugging himself and running, which was done in the first movie, but it was done better, like in a way that made sense. In this case, I get it. He's freaked out because he found out he's dead and he doesn't believe it.
None of this is real.
I don't understand how he comes to be. I don't understand how memories work for him then, because he had does he not remember coming out of the water? how did she get him to her place? Like, did she just drag his body? I don't understand that either. So let's say, okay, you're dead. And he's like, I don't believe it. So then he goes running around and whatnot. What convinces him that he is dead? Now, doing the reverse. If I don't think I'm dead, just running around and looking at stuff, that's probably not going to convince me I'm dead, right? Like if I had, hopefully I'll only do this if I have regeneration powers, but you know, you'd have to like shoot me and then have me get back up. Please don't try it. Don't do it. But, you know, I would need some sort of proof to prove that, like, oh, I guess you're right. And you're not the crazy one. It doesn't make any sense if he doesn't know. In the first one, I assume when he came out, he knew, right? He dug himself out of his own grave. He was dug out of his grave. I don't know who did it. Maybe Sarah did that too. I don't know. So he probably was like pretty convinced that like, I'm dead. So in this case, this guy comes out of the water, goes unconscious for whatever reason, comes to, and is like, I don't think I'm dead.
What was that?
I'm not going to blame the kid in this situation, right? It's easier to say that kid's an idiot. You live in a terrible city, right? We have established this place is basically hell on earth. We have small girls who are junkies. The town is run by drugs and this horrible gang who have killed this guy and his son. This scene is before that, and I get that. So the son doesn't have the foresight that he's going to get murdered. I get it. What I don't get is why you have a son in that situation who's that excited to hear gunshots. I'm not trying to tell anyone how to parent, but if you live in a especially dangerous area, I would think that it makes more sense for in the instances that your child hears gunshots, they've learned that they should not run toward them, that they should maybe get to a safe location, and if it's safe to do so, hide until the danger is past. What we have here for some reason is this guy raised a son who hears gunshots and thinks, oh my God, what's that? Let's go see. Blows my mind. If before we heard the gunshots, we heard like a guy hooping and hollering, right? We got these wild, crazy characters being weirdos, right? So I could see him being maybe more excited if he hears a guy going, woohoo! Yeah, you know, and like cheering. And then he's like, what's that? And thinks something fun is happening outside. And then they come across these people beating and killing this guy. That makes more sense. But who has a kid in a dangerous situation and teaches them it's okay to run to those dangerous sounds? I'm not blaming the kid on this one. I'm blaming the dad. And I mean, it's awful. I know that he's been through a lot, but maybe you wouldn't have been in that situation if you had taught your kid what danger is. I've been around kids. I've been around scared kids. Luckily, not been around kids in a situation where there's gunshots, but like even things falling outside is like scary and they don't run out to go see like who's knocking stuff over or whatever. Does he think it's fireworks? Even if he thought it was fireworks, wouldn't you teach him like not everything's fireworks in this dangerous town we live in? Did you just get here? Is that why you have an accent? Is this like literally the first week in this town? And in France, anytime you hear that, it's something great? People throwing money out of a cannon maybe? I get the lost part. I get having a stupid kid even, right? Like you can have a stupid kid that gets you and yourself killed in a way that makes sense. But hearing gunshots and being like, what is that? And running outside doesn't make sense when we've established you're in a dangerous town.
Yeah. That's a blue sun.
And I mean, the kid made the sun blue, so maybe he's kind of dumb. But still, not him. It's not on him. You should have taught him better. Here's what would have made more sense, honestly. We know that he was killed near where he lived. She took him home, and then he ran all the way back to this place, and then the memory started. And that part makes sense. Again, it's more of a copy of the first movie. It feels like it doesn't really understand what's supposed to be happening or the reason why it's happening. But it happened in the first one. Let's do it again. Let's do it longer. Let's do it weirder. And she's communicating with the crows are telling her where he is, right? If she had just brought him back to his shop, wouldn't that have made more sense? She wouldn't have taken him so far drag him to her car, drive him back to her house, drag him into her house, just drag him back. And then he could wake up. How did I, like, what's going on? You know, and then as he's like, then the memories start hitting him as he's, you know, she's like, no, you're dead. And he's like, no, I'm not. But then then the memories start happening. It would make it more realistic. I don't know that I would feel more because I don't find this a very convincing performance. And I get it. He doesn't have a lot to work with. He's just beating up a shop because do they not have a home? Do they just live in this garage? Here's the thing. If we wanted to keep Sarah in the series for some reason, we can have her in a similar role as the first one, right? She sees him and she sees a crow or whatever, and she knows what's going on. Maybe even after this, he busts out of the garage and she just happened to be hanging out at the dock or something, let's say. I don't know her life. Maybe she likes the water. Maybe she wants to be a mermaid. But she's hanging out on the dock and he like bursts out and he's freaking out and the crow flies with him. And she's like, oh my God, I know what's going on here. And she's like, I want to help you. And then from there, they create this relationship. It would be, again, more natural, more coincidental. Doesn't imply that Sarah's got some sort of connection to the creation of all of this. It doesn't mean that we have to assume that it's only happened twice. We can just assume that it's happened twice when Sarah's around, which expands the idea of what's going on a little bit more. It could be happening anywhere at any time as far as we know, right? But these are the two times that Sarah's seen it. And Sarah is the storyteller here because she did narration in the first one and the second one.
The way to have them live on is to never stop loving them.
Because sometimes love is stronger than death.
That makes it make more sense as opposed to she's got some sort of psychic connection and can talk to crows. I mean, crows are cool. And I'm not saying like you can't talk to crows. I'm just saying, and like maybe she's got an affinity for crows. It would make sense based on her history. But it like to all crows forever? That's why I assume this has to be the same crow. Another thing that doesn't make sense is the face paint. In the original Crow movie, the face paint was based on the drama masks in the apartment, right? Up on the mirror. She has it in this movie. In the comic, I don't think they specifically state it, but there's images of it on like the walls and stuff. So it makes sense. There's a reason why he picked that thing. That is a connection that he has to that time. In this case, she paints his face because we're doing some sort of weird, like, I don't know, it really implies like they're trying to get them to hook up or something, which is weird, but whatever. So, you know, really intense. She paints his face and does the same mask thing. Now, here's the thing about this movie. This is called The Crow. It is about being resurrected and having a crow as your guiding spirit. It is not called The Mime. Everybody doesn't have to dress up like the mimes. I haven't seen the third and fourth movies, but I've seen the covers. Everyone's dressed as a fucking mime. He's not dressed like that in the original just because. Right? It's not like he was like, oh, I'm bored. It's not like he does a lot of mime stuff unless they've turned this clown thing into a Pagliacci reference. Maybe I'm missing the point. Again, to separate instead of copying, they should do something that connects him to something. The only thing that we have really to go on is the blue sun. So this could have been a Blue Man Group sort of situation.
It just looks like he's dead. He's got like blue paint on him or something.
We could have had hijinks and things ensuing there. But we also could have come up with a different part or a different connection. For the face makeup, they could also use something related to magic since he's a magician. The magician thing, which normally I would like, I love magicians, it feels like it's tacked on and forced.
What's this?
This guy doesn't feel like a magician to me at all. We saw him get ready. I didn't see him grab flash paper. So what is happening? The deck of cards, I could see maybe he just always has it in his coat. I don't know. I don't know this guy. But we could use that for face makeup. The other thing that's in this movie is the Day of the Dead. It would have made complete sense to have him have his makeup as a sugar skull. It's already been brought up. The tattoo guy gave her a sugar skull. So that would be something that was on her mind. I can see her doing the face mask as like pushing her trauma onto this guy. But as the guy, why aren't you like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is super weird. The thing about that is, and this wasn't so much of an issue when this movie was made, but you could say cultural appropriation. I am a little confused about that specifically. I've done that kind of face makeup because the Day of the Dead is actually something that's important to me, but that wouldn't have been an issue back then. It might be an issue for me one day when people call me out for cultural appropriation, but here, I don't even think they used that phrase then. It just would have, again, separated from the first one because that would have been ideal, right? You can have a theme, but enough differences that things change. But if cultural appropriation is something that you're concerned about, I feel it would have been great to have this as a mom, right? She probably wouldn't have left her kid in the water after she got out. We could have her be from an origin that Day of the Dead is culturally appropriate to based on the time frame. In the same way that cultural appropriation probably wasn't something that was concerning. I'm sure diverse casting wasn't such a thing that was concerning, but it would further push us away to get the idea of The Crow, but not the exact same movie or replicating with less feeling. And let's be honest, that would be a pretty badass movie. There is at times a difficult line between paying tribute and replicating. And I feel like this movie, unfortunately, sticks more toward replicating. You could do a couple of nice touches to do some nods to the first movie. In this case, it's basically like they're trying to just redo the first movie. You liked the first movie, right? Well, you'll love this one because that's what you wanted to see, right? The first movie again. I do get that sequels can be difficult because especially doing a sequel for something revered, you have a lot of pressure. I don't know that this movie could have been successful. I mean, the way I would write it, I think it could be. But I have never had to write a movie or put that pressure out. So it's easier for me to say, well, here's what I would do. And I get that. I do get that.
I don't know what you're talking about this fucking tattoo you gave me.
It's a crow.
Goddamn right, it's a crow.
If you've never had a tattoo, and I've got a few, first of all, it's a lot messier than we're seeing in this movie when you're applying a tattoo. But second of all, especially on your chest, it's really hard to get a tattoo that you don't know what's happening.
I was going from the fucking design that you gave me.
So she says it was based on his drawings. Could be, if those were his sketches that we saw that she was painting. Makes sense. I don't know then why she thinks it looks like a crow. Unless she's intentionally tattooing secret crows on people. I have crows that I got a crow that I got intentionally on me, and it took forever. So I can't imagine that the tattoo artist could have snuck it on me. That said, typically they draw it up, they show it to you, then they place it, then they make you look at it to make sure it places right and that you like it there. Then they do the tattooing. Even if they didn't do those couple of steps though, it's on his chest. So he can see, like she would have applied it, so he can see what's happening as she's drawing. He could also see when it's done. Right? So he could have resolved this at the same time. Looked down and been like, this is a crow, my dude. Fix it. Make it anything else. Right? And then if she refuses, shot her then. If that's what he's so inclined to do. It looks like it's been there a while. But he's got this tattoo, unknown amount of time. It's suddenly bothering him. And keep in mind, bothering him before the guy was going after anybody. Before he saw the sign of the crow in the glass. Which, by the way, in the first movie he was doing intentionally, and in this movie it's just happening. I don't understand, but whatever. Let's not focus on these kinds of things. And now he's like, oh, I'm marked with his, or the oracle's like, oh, you're marked with his sign.
You've been marked.
What's this, Kurt?
How? Did she know that these guys were going to kill that guy and their son? In which case, if she's so psychic, why didn't she do anything to stop it? Does she just like helping the dead? And she's like, well, I'll wait till they're dead before I help them. What is happening? It doesn't make any sense. Why is this a plot line? He could just have a bad tattoo and he could have had contact with them before all of this happened. And then she could say something like, they could book a follow-up to okay, well, let me make some adjustments and we'll make it look less like a crow or whatever. From there, more problems or whatever, if we need to intertwine these people into the story. Right? There's a way, especially with tattoos, that you could do that to make it more natural instead of this weird thing where he's got a kind of a crow, I guess, on him that he didn't notice until a day ago. Doesn't make any sense. Again, I'm not going to go over everything, every little death. I get that this is supposed to be a cool effect or whatever for the Thomas Jane character's death. In the booth, thing goes down, comes back up, and it's Ash. That is kind of a cool thing So here's how we could have made this a little bit more believable. Is A, when he puts the coins in, right? He puts one in and then like slams it down or whatever. Then just stops. And it puts like 65 seconds on the clock, or maybe 69 seconds. Nice. About a minute, which is doable. Not judging him there. Pros know how to get it done quick. But I assume that he knows what his needs are. So he could have the foresight and put 2 coins in. And instead of having that first coin jam and him like banging it down, he could have the 1 coin go in and then the second coin jam. And we don't see it though until the thing goes down, and he looks and he sees the coin just sitting there and he's like, oh, damn it. And then he pounds it to knock it down. The other part that's less believable for me. So again, I'm not sure how to talk about this, but he seems real close. I don't know that he would need anything else, right? He's gotten a show. The thing goes down. He's almost there. I think he has his eyes closed anyways. Like, just let her rip, my dude. Even if he like was looking at her the whole time, at that point, it seems like he's ready to go. He doesn't need to open the window again, does he? So maybe it would make more sense for there to be a little bit more back and forth beforehand. Establish maybe this is his girl that he goes to all the time. She seems like a very nice girl. I could see like, you know, some sort of connection-y type thing that she would probably have is how she gets the clientele and that kind of thing. So you could start that. Maybe even give his character a little bit more depth when she like talks to him like she knows him. And then he just gets started to go, and then the thing goes down, and then he's like, oh, come on, dude. And that's when we just discover that the coin didn't go in. He bops it on the coin thing, to be clear. Bop, bop, bop on the coin thing. And then after the coin like dinks in and the thing comes up, then we see Ash. That would have been a much better way to reveal. I don't understand. Does he just have amazing jump powers when he comes back from the dead? I also don't understand the security system for this place. I hear the alarm going off. Are they like basically like the volunteer fire department for the area, except volunteer gangness? Are they within earshot to hear the alarm going off? Or do they all have pagers? Like, how do they know that something has happened there to get such a quick response to show up with guns? Also, this chick in the gang, she seems real cool. What's her deal? Wouldn't it be great to get a little bit more about like what it's like to be her, how she got there? Like, not even, I obviously don't need a full backstory for a bad guy, but even just some inkling of how much it sucks to be with these fucking weirdos as a lady, as a hot lady also. I mean, she must have had to shoot a lot of guys in the dick, right? That's an interesting story. Did this guy just move to this town? Is he from another country? And that's why he, like, I assumed, right, as I mentioned with the kid, if you know you live in a dangerous area, teach him not to get hurt. But now he's busting into this church, being a weirdo.
I'm sorry, Father. I was just watching.
And he's like, what's going on? And the guy's like, it's Day of the Dead. You live in that area. California has a pretty big Hispanic population. I mean, obviously I don't know what area that he lives in, but especially in an area, you know, with tattoos, there is a very specific style of tattoo that comes from California and is often based in the Hispanic culture. And granted, I don't expect a lot of people to be able to look at tattoos and tell what area they come from, but I'm just saying, we know that it's tattoo area. We know that it's Los Angeles. I would probably assume that they have a Hispanic tattoo shop nearby as some sort of, you know, competition to this weird one that doesn't make any sense anyway, because that's the most common tattoo in that area, tattoo style in that area, especially during this time period. Granted, times have changed and you can get almost any kind of tattoo in any kind of place, and California specifically, but also some parts of Texas, there's a very specific tattoo style that would imply that the area has enough Hispanic population that you probably know what Day of the Dead is, especially if you're not in the very, very white, affluent part of Los Angeles. Like, you would just happen to see it. So he has to be from out of the country. This church wouldn't be here if that population wasn't there. This would make more sense if it was in a different city then. But it just seems that the area that he lives in, he should know what this is. Also, I get that he doesn't know Spanish, but like, you can probably tell this. You can tell something's wrong.
Santa Muerte.
So muerte is dead or death in Spanish, and then it's similar in French, right? Isn't it the same in French? I looked it up to make sure I wasn't crazy. Dead in French is muerte. A lot of Spanish and French words are very similar in sound. So even if he doesn't understand what she's saying, like he could probably get an idea of what she's saying. He would probably have a better idea of what she's saying than any random dude on the street because it's so close. She's saying you're dead, my dude. You know that. Why are you just being like, I don't know what's going on? In the original Crow, there is a scene when he's going after Fun Boy where Darla's in the bathroom. He takes the body into the bathroom and he says,
Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children.
And squeezes her arm, makes her not a junkie anymore, which is a pretty cool power. Morphine is bad for you. Your daughter needs you or whatever. This makes sense in that context for a couple of reasons. A, she happens to be in the room with the guy that he wants to kill. Right, so she happens to be there. It's not like he sought her out. 2, he has connection to Sarah. He cares for Sarah based on the relationship when he was alive, right? So, and now that he and Shelley have passed, there's no one to take care of Sarah. So it would make sense for him to want, especially now, her to clean up her act and be the mother that she needs to be because Sarah doesn't have anyone else in her life. In this case, as far as we know, since we've already established this guy just moved to town, he doesn't know this girl.
Maybe there is another way.
How'd you do that?
You have power just like I do.
He just pops out of nowhere and is like, hey, dude, stop doing drugs. You can do it. I got magic powers, you got magic powers, you can stop doing drugs. I'm a good guy, see you later. This is another one of those times where it replicates the first movie, but it doesn't make any fucking sense. Probably should have said that with a French accent. I got a superpower, I don't know how to do French. I have superpowers. You have superpowers. You do not need to do drugs. How do I not know how to do a French accent? I have nothing against this guy being French, right? He could be French and being anything else. I'm a huge Jean-Claude Van Damme fan, and Highlander is one of my favorite movies. So I want to make that very clear. If they wanted to do that, they could have. And again, I'm basing this on the assumption that he just moved to town because he doesn't know anything that's going on. But we could have established that this little girl was his son's friend, right? We could have, in some of the memories, shown them playing or something. But again, I guess it's been like 3 days since he died, so it's a real drop to suddenly be a junkie. But if we went for a year back, had the skeleton child that we don't try to save because we see he's a skeleton, in our memories of how great it was being a father and having a son, we have this little ragamuffin, who he also kind of took care of because she needed, some support. And now that he's gone and a year has passed, she's become a junkie. Then he shows up and he's like, Mon ami, this is terrible. Stop doing drugs. We all have superpowers. Then it would make more sense. It would be more impactful. But instead, it's just like, hey, I'm a magician who showed up and I've got flash paper in my coat at all times. Okay, back to I mentioned earlier where it seems like they're trying to force a relationship.
What happens to me when I finish what I'm supposed to do here?
What is happening here? He doesn't know her. And it's not even like in most movies where they don't really know each other. And she told him he's dead. He freaks out, runs off. She paints his face and then he goes off and starts killing people. And then I've killed a couple of people. And now that I think about it, I'm in love with you. Or have you been married? Oh, no, I'm not married. This is just some people I knew. Okay, cool. My wife was a drug addict and she left. Can I stay with the living forever? Aren't you killing because of your son? Don't you want to go be with your son? What the fuck are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. You also answered your own question. Just don't kill everybody. And then you can hang around and bang her, I guess. You got your answer. You know how to do it. Hang around, bang her. You realize it's not love. You just haven't had sex since you came back from the dead, I guess. And then go back and finish your mission so you can go be with your son.
I'm not gonna sit here with a fucking target on my chest.
Additionally, when they consider that, or when they state that she gave him his mark or whatever. So I have a tattoo of a crow on my body. I asked for it. I wanted it. And it's very nice and I like it. If then somebody started doing started killing people and leaving the sign of the crow, I would not think that Yaz had anything to do with the murders. I'd be like, oh, that's a crazy coincidence. We still don't know how old this tattoo is. Is this brand new? What is happening? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. If they and want to connect Iggy Pop to Sarah, or Curve to Sarah, again, he's going back to get his tattoo redone. Ash, who's in love with her for some reason, and we can change that too, but let's keep it for now. Ash, who's in love with her, he happens to see something of Ash's in the tattoo shop when he's getting redone, and he's like, hey, where did that huge leather coat come from? And she's like, oh, a friend of mine gave it to me. And then he can start being suspicious or assumptuous or whatever he wants to do from there. We can do it in a way that makes sense instead of just being like, you got a crow tattoo? I bet that bitch knows something about this dead guy that we killed and came back to life after you got the tattoo? It doesn't make any sense. What are you doing?
Look at me.
No. No.
You know what could have made that scene anyway more impactful instead of confusing? Is if in between the time when he's like, but what if I don't want to leave? And now we can't do this. I need to find the others. He's like out in the street and he sees trick-or-treaters or anything. It sparks a memory of his son and how much he loves his son. Maybe even like falls to the ground, just dying because he doesn't have his kid, right? And then it makes reason for him to be like, I can't do this, Sarah. I was wrong. I shouldn't have fallen in love with you. And even though I do love you for no apparent reason, I've got to finish my mission. And I put the scene that comes right after that, right before it. Suddenly it makes sense. There's such simple things you can do to make it make sense, to make it a better story, to make it more real. Instead of everybody doing things for no fucking reason. Also, why is she in love with him? He hasn't done anything impressive except trying to move on after his son died, which a parent has a right to do and is very difficult. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying that only thing she knows about him is he got killed. He killed a couple people and was like, maybe my son wasn't that important to me. Then he realized his dick had decayed in the water and he couldn't be with her. So he's like, I better get back on it. Okay, so he does get his son. It's just later. And again, this could all be more impactful at the beginning, right? So he doesn't believe he's dead. He's having the meltdown, goes back to the garage, goes underwater, pulls up his son, buries him, has the meltdown. Maybe even then Sarah could show up where he's kind of resigned to, I'm in this crazy hell situation. And then she could do different makeup for him. But at this point, I kind of feel like he didn't care. And so like, this is just emotional manipulation, maybe like, oh, he actually does care about his son, even though thus far we've kind of implied that he hasn't really. But trust me, he does. And that's why all this revenge makes sense. Okay, dudes. I don't know why he burns the drawing though. I would think that he would keep it with him at least until he was done. But maybe it means something to like a Viking funeral sort of situation. He can't burn the kid because that's terrible look, but you can burn his drawing on his grave. That's fine. What is up with this guy's memory? So he just remembered that she shot him, right? It was like right before this. Goes to the apartment, Sarah says she's there. He does like a goofy fight with her. Is it because she's a lady? As a lady myself, if I'm in a fight, like everyone's kind of bigger than me, but like I can hit anybody I want, I guess. So I can't imagine being a goof with the person who killed my kid. I would fucking kill them. Like I would be pissed. And in this case, he's like, goofy. And then he's like, oh wait, this is the one who shot my kid. Of the 4 people, the only girl. Oh, I forgot it was her. I thought it was the other guy, even though I just remembered this. So what is that? Like, and then rather than like freak out on her, he just starts slamming his head into stuff. What is that? That could have been a really cool fight. I mean, the throwing star into the hand is clearly I would have considered that a nod, although with everything else, it just makes me uncomfortable. They're just copying. And I get it, your hands are the things that you use as defense, so I get it. What a horrible fight scene. I hated it. It could have been so cool if he had like really gone for it and she'd been like really trained. It would have been so cool. And also, what a wasted character. We know she's throwing stars, so she's Asian and she shoots children. That's really all we know. I love the absolute comedy of being a revenge dude, going to a weird fetish club, an especially weird club, just standing there staring at a dude and everyone keeps rubbing and dancing and all of that sort of stuff because they don't care. They're just like, there's a dude, let's start dancing with him. And he just stares. Comedy aside, that scene where he's getting shot multiple times is directly from the first Crow. He's not bulletproof. We can see like stuff coming out the back of him, it looks like, even like his clothes ripping or whatever. The person behind him is gonna get hit even if he had been bulletproof, though, because there's so many guns being shot, surely some bullets are going to miss. They're also not completely matched up. There also are different people are shooting from different angles. No, it's not like a group of people like gun over shoulder shooting like at the same direction. They're shooting on a line. So some of them are going to have curved angles, like, and they're shooting rapid fire. So it's not like everyone's got perfect good aim, right? It is possible for all of them to shoot and hit the right target, but in a scattershot situation like that, no. What is that? And I get it's supposed to look cool, but maybe it would seem cooler if it wasn't a ripoff of the first fucking movie. Okay, overall, Curve's death is stupid, and that is what it is.
Fuck you, bird dick!
The Crow cards and my rating of the Crow cards, I feel, were more impactful and emotional. The part where he says that he wants to thank Curve for showing him his pain.
I want to thank you for showing me my pain, Curve. You made me what I am.
Is another example of taking from the first movie and not understanding.
What you kept in here saved me.
First of all, how did Curve show you your pain? He killed you and your son? Is that the pain? Is that how? You want to thank him for that? Thanks, dude. Help me out. I was able to come back from the dead and kill you guys. So, super great. In the first movie, Eric takes the pain from Ernie Hudson's character and uses that to kill the big bad guy.
30 hours of pain.
Right? And so he used the pain and that was helpful. In this, what are you talking about? If I hadn't seen the first movie to have any sort of idea what that could mean, I certainly wouldn't be able to come up with anything here. There wasn't any flashbacks during this fight. It's just them running on a motorcycle, him awkwardly pulling a gun off of himself, shooting the motorcycle. Motorcycle has a huge explosion. He waves and walks through the fire, and then this. What are you talking about? I love the concept that he was in that weird sex club and all that was fine. But he goes to the celebration where everyone's wearing, you know, skull masks and the skeletons and stuff like that. And that's what freaks him out. Oh, my son's a skeleton.
If you give up now, we won't be together.
You know, I was complaining that the dad didn't seem that invested. The kid doesn't seem that invested either. But he was a skeleton. I said it from the beginning. That ending sucked. I like Judah. I think he's a good bad guy. And I do like some of the things. And I don't think that drinking crow blood gives you their powers, but fine, whatever. Let's just say that it does. I don't care that Sarah got stabbed, showing that painting was a prophecy or whatever. Like, it's fine. It is what it is. That's not what bothers me. What bothers me is the pain thing again.
There's nothing but pain for you now.
Pain is my power.
You're using it wrong. And they could have made it make sense that the crows kill him. The real thing about crows is that they remember when somebody has murdered one of them, right? They'll see if they see someone or something kill a crow, they remember. They don't like it. We know that guy did kill a crow. So it would make complete sense for the crows to be like, look, right? So maybe he like pulls out the crow and he's like, here's your power, I have it now, or something. And then the crows who are flying up above like freak out and just kill him. It would have made sense. I mean, it would have made sense scientifically. I guess if you don't know about birds, it might be a little bit weird, but I still think overall, I mean, it's the same principle of the guy killing everybody who killed his son, right? They're killing the guy who killed their buddy. Same difference. So I still think it flows, even if you don't know that crows don't like people who murder other crows. So worst 3 hours of my life, Jesus. The other one had a book. I've got this book. And I admit I haven't read the whole thing, but I do have some things that I wanted to bring up from it. So referencing the tattoo issues that I had. To get her skin art chops in shape, Mia Krishner hooked up with Leo Zaluda's Black Wave Tattoo Studio in Los Angeles, just south of Hollywood, a major influence in the tattoo world. She wanted to learn the whole thing from start to finish. We went over skin preparation, loading the ink gun, general tattooing techniques, holding skin in place, needle movement, like that. She did everything but actually tattoo someone. Zulu was also on the set for the first night shooting at the Grey Gargoyle, assuring that accurate tradecraft was portrayed within the scene. The fuck are you talking about? None of that looked real. Except maybe the tattoo artist saying he couldn't help that one lady.
Spin man out.
This is reference the writing of it. Perhaps the most central element for the genesis of A New Crow, a new spirit brought back from the land of the dead, was the 1-2 punch of the character's tragic and violent death, as well as the character's unlimited capacity for love, a love that could transcend death and become a force for justice and revenge. So Ash Corbin was conceived. In this story, Ash initially doesn't know he's dead and in a sense is a reluctant avenger. Is he? He seems just confused at first and then pretty gung-ho pretty quickly. It seemed logical to bring back Sarah. Someone had already connected the Crow to help Ash make his spiritual transition. Again, yes, this could be done, but not the way that it was done. Having the newly resurrected Ash, who was returning to avenge the deaths of himself and his younger son, connect with the living Sarah provided a chance to explore a unique facet of true love element crucial to the Crow's mythos. Again, not understanding. While in the first film, Alec and Shelley's life together was shown only in brief flashbacks, this time the audience would witness a bond forming between Ash and Sarah as the story progressed and Ash carried out his mission. The fact that theirs is a doomed relationship from the start just made it all the more intense and gothic, contrasting with Ash's parental love for Danny. They say, we didn't want to just tell a story of a man who lost his lover again. We thought, well, that's the only thing that could possibly be as heart-wrenching as somebody losing his fiancé, and we concluded that it would probably be losing a child. I know it would be for me. Again, that is a fantastic idea. I know so many people who would, if something happened to their kid, would do anything to seek revenge, honestly. I think it's inherent in a lot of parents. That wasn't what they focused on, though. I don't think it would be too far of a leap for somebody to watch this movie and not, get why he would want to kill all these people who killed this kid. It makes sense. I think it makes more sense than him falling in love with Sarah. And again, maybe you do want that love element and you, for some reason, can't see it as, loving your kid enough like that, whatever. But you want to have, some romance for some reason. It's not needed, but let's say you do. Make it make sense. Put them together. Make it so they're having to help each other or engage with each other or see each other or, talk to each other in between the time they meet and suddenly fall in love. What happened there made no sense. I don't see the need for them to be in love. And again, I don't have a problem with Sarah being in the movie. I don't have a problem with Sarah explaining how things happened. I just find it was really forced the way that, oh yeah, of course she showed up because the Crow thing. There is an interesting part in here where they talk to James O'Barr in the interview section and talks about how in the original graphic novel, the bird's actually a manifestation of Eric's own state of mind, which I don't think that I got, but I also saw the movie before I read the graphic novel. They point out it was the first film that brought the idea that it was perhaps bringing people back for eons. And so the interviewer asks, so you didn't have a problem with this sort of modification, the Crow mythos, or even the beginning of the Crow mythos? They said it really didn't change anything. To me, there's really no difference from it being a manifestation of his splintered personality. To me, it's something spiritual and not that big a leap for me, which I agree. Either way, when I read this and they said it was his splintered personality, I was like, oh, I can kind of see that based on the graphic novel. The movie, not so much. And he says, and I'm really glad the bird doesn't talk like it does in the book. I don't know if anyone could pull that off without it being a joke, which I agree. I had mentioned earlier, there's not a lot of explaining of you just assume it's magic or whatever. And the Crow does guide him, but it doesn't talk to him. And you can infer from, the Crow seeing Tintin, that sort of thing, that the Crow is hey, this is where we're going. But it doesn't need to talk. And while it does work in the comic, it absolutely would not work in the movie. And then this was interesting in the interview section. This is Mia Kirshner. And she says, I was sent the script through my agency. I really liked The Crow, and I found that what I liked about City of Angels was that it's so different. Is it? I love the fact that an action film, which seems fairly mainstream, was really challenging. It definitely appeals to mass audience, but at the same time, it's very literate, and I love the character of Sarah. I like the script's theme, the whole notion that every single character has this void that they're yearning to fill, this void of loneliness and what people do in order to overcome their own loneliness. What movie were, like, is the script different than what we saw? Are we missing, like, a ton of movie? Because I don't know what she's talking about. That would have been an interesting thing to see, but it was not in the movie I saw. I mean, I'm not gonna go too hard on what anybody actually says in that book because it's meant for promotion. So obviously they're not gonna be like, it was fine. They're gonna talk it up and they're gonna be excited because they're in it, and that's fine. I don't, again, but it's just that specific thing. It makes me wonder if there was a different script or maybe even more to the script than we got to see. They're like, yeah, the parts that make it make sense, let's cut all those out. I feel like that's probably not the case. I feel if anything was cut out, it would probably be something that drove me more nuts. All right, I should have been in bed an hour ago. So let's wrap this up. Thought I liked The Crow 2? I don't like The Crow 2. It could have been a good movie. One of the things they talk about in it is that, in this book, is that, they didn't want to have Eric come back and be the protagonist again, which makes sense. That would have been a terrible way to go too. His story is complete, just like they say. I agree with that completely. And I do like that they had a new character, a new situation right away. The reason why Halloween 3 didn't work is because it was Halloween 3. 1 and 2 were connected, and then you've got this third movie that comes out of nowhere. So if they had stuck with the Eric Draven character, which wouldn't have worked for other reasons as well, but if they'd stuck with the Eric Draven character, they would have been stuck in that for at least some time. Highlander had the first, second, and third one, and then the fourth one they introduced his brother, and they had the show with his brother. So it's possible, but it's just when you set a certain expectation for people, you have to transition usually. Or what happens with Halloween is people are like, what the hell is this? And then you go back to what you had before. But they could have done just some things that made it make sense, made it some things more interesting. The idea is actually good. A parent's love is so strong for their children. They would do anything for their children. And I wish that they had focused on that. I don't think the romantic angle helped anything. I don't think it was needed. But if you're going to use that, then also use that as a through line. Sarah should have been waiting on the other side with them, where they're, jumping over the water, and then she's like standing on the edge like, hi guys, or something like that. And then you have to introduce this kid to this weird lady you met when you were on the earth for like a day. I'm just saying, if you're gonna do it, then just do it. So that was City of Angels. I have not seen the third or fourth Crow, and I probably won't, but I did think it would be funny to say if this video got 10 likes, I would do it, because the most likes I've ever gotten on any video is 7, and I just thought it would be funny. And I imagine if this video ever does get 10 likes, it'll be in like 2 years or something. Let's do it. If this video gets 10 likes, I will watch the third and fourth Crow, and we'll see how they stand up. I have, again, seen the covers. They're wearing the mime makeup, so I'm probably not going to be thrilled, but I'll do it. So my original Crow video did not turn out the way I thought it would. This Crow 2 did not go the way I thought it would. I thought I would just watch it and then have a couple of quick points and talk about what parts that I did like and that sort of thing, instead of just sitting here and just tearing it apart. Nothing's turning out actually the way that I expected. Originally I was going to do the Crow on Halloween and this one on the 1st, but I'm actually going to have this out as the following Sunday video because I am moving. I've got a lot of packing to do, so I don't have as much time to keep up with making stuff, but I will continue to make stuff. I just don't have as much time. We'll see how that works out. I do have still a bunch of big projects that I'm working on that are just going to be more and more delayed, in part because I'm not working on them, if I'm being honest, but also because of the move and everything changing. But anyway, I hope that this video was entertaining. I hope that you had fun, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye. Thanks for watching.